Hello! Hey, this is Samantha, and I'm checking my angles to see how it actually looks. So today, I have committed to doing an unedited version of what I'm doing. Why am I doing that? Because I feel like everybody wants to know the real you. And I thought, well, that would be a good way to show the real me, is to show what it looks like to actually set up my camera for what I'm doing. So I just have a tripod right now, a window to my right, and I have set up my camera on the bed. And now my battery is blinking and saying it's almost out of battery. So I might have to restart. Just a minute. Well, it turns out that my other battery also needs charge, so I'm going to just go until this dies. So here's what I want to talk about. I am just as real as everybody else. I think it's foolish of me to try to present otherwise, so I won't, but I also want to do an excellent job. So that's why I edit and try to make it so you don't have to watch everything that I'm doing all the time, because then you would stop watching. A lot goes into this little moment of 5 minutes or so. So, truths. I cleaned off the dressers, put the clothes into a laundry basket, and put them in my bathroom so that they looked clean. I changed my shirt twice because the other one was wrinkly. I don't have all these things figured out. I take usually several mornings before the family gets going, and I process these ideas. That's where they're coming from. I'll wake up and I'll ponder and I'll start writing, and then I'll go to my husband and I'll say, here's my thoughts, and he'll give me his feedback, and then I'll go back to the drawing boards again and work on them once again. So I usually just sit in here in my bedroom. I have a little desk in my bedroom that I have right in front of a window, and that's where I process the ideas. And I have failed many times at being kind to my family when I'm trying to do a good job. My kids right now are watching a show. My daughter's watching a girly show, and my sons are on screen time playing a game out in the living room. So that's how it's quiet enough in my house that I can actually record and you hear me without a lot of background noise. So I want to share quickly about one thing that I'm really struggling through, and I feel like this is pretty raw, and that's the idea of being faithful. I have grown up under law in my own life, under a lot of religious feels. It's not that necessarily the church has put it in me, but it was my go-to, because then I enjoyed feeling like I was doing a good job. So I lived under a lot of religious mindsets in my own heart. It wasn't that I had a bunch of strong traditions, but that that's just kind of how I managed my world, was through the law. So then I got a hold of grace, and grace is just like, oh my gosh, there's liberty and there's freedom, and I love it, and I want to be full of freedom. You know, I like to feel free, and my personality really loves freedom. But then I see the Gospels, and I see the fruit of the Spirit. You know, it's talking about just being responsible for the talents that we've been given. And this just constantly is such a struggle in my life, because it's like I always have an excuse in my heart. And the excuses are that I just don't want to address that I am not faithful. I am very faithful to church, to my family, to my husband. I'm very faithful in those arenas, but I'm not faithful to myself. I used to play soccer in high school and college and club, and I was always faithful to that. There was no question in my mind of being driven to do those things well and stay committed. But when it comes to being faithful to me, I am terrible, just to be honest. I do not like habits. I've never liked habits. They always seem to just wall me in. People who have habits are amazing in my mind. Like, they are so highly esteemed, but they're very different than me. But I search them out, you know, I'm like, well, maybe if I could just make this other habit. And I know that it won't work. And so I learned recently, and I saw in myself that I was using an excuse. And my excuse was that if I said it was law, I didn't have to do it. But then that took away every time that faithfulness was really trying to play its part. And right now, the faithfulness that I'm struggling with is being faithful to eat the foods that I feel like I should. I haven't even searched it out well enough, and I feel like I could fail anyway at knowing what foods to eat. My body, just taking care of my body in general, I don't feel like I do with that very well. I've got several issues that I struggle with, and I just have to learn to be faithful. But this is the first time that I've ever even noticed that maybe I was using law and saying it was law when really it was just to be faithful. So it's my newest revelation of, oh, I don't know if you have those O's, but that kind of O for me is hard, because there's no excuses, and there's no saying, you know, any way around it other than either I step up to the plate or I back away and just keep walking like I've been walking, and my hip hurts and stomach issues and all that jazz. So I have to take personal responsibility because of the right reasons, because I want to be faithful and not just because I can make it a law. And it's tough. It's really tough. So anyway, this is the real raw Samantha. The only pause that I gave was for the battery, and it's still blinking red, but I got through. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Sammy E, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.